What's up, everybody? We're on a podcast now. I'm Alex, and this video I want to talk about EA Motive's Iron Man game, talk about the possibility of this thing showing up at the Game Awards. Look, it's another day. It's another Game Awards video day. I really think this is an interesting one. I've really tried to take the themes of the last couple of Game Awards videos that I've done and try to say, okay, well, there's tiers. There's some really big games and what could be like a really big, ending announcement for the show. I've talked about even like a Final Fantasy VII Part 3. I think that would be massive. Of course, my heart wants to say Kingdom Hearts, but that's probably not realistic. Max Payne, right? I think the Max Payne remake is something that could happen. Iron Man is another one. Iron Man is a really good opener or closer for the show. And, it's starting to approach that dreadful period of time where, you announce a game and then you go 2 years, you go 3 years, you go 4 years, and then you're waiting for something to happen. Now, okay, I exaggerate a little bit because it was announced in September of 22. Okay, so it did just pass 3. We haven't reached 4 yet, but we're going to reach 3.5 before you know it. This is a weird one too because I think you could honestly, and I have another game in mind for a video like this, but I might just wait to talk about if we'll see it in 2026. Because to be honest, the game I'm thinking about and Iron Man, they're somewhat similar. I think, if you don't see Iron Man at the Game Awards, this is a game I think you talk about when you make a video and you say like, okay, well, what are some surprise games that we might see in 2026, right? Revealed or show gameplay for. And I think Iron Man should probably be towards the top of that list because you're in year 3.5. You're going into year 4 in 2026. If it doesn't happen here, I think it happens, in just next year at some point. But okay, let's explore it a little bit, right? Does it make sense? Well, look, in those 3 years, could they have put enough stuff together to at least give us a trailer? This would go back, I would say, to what I said with probably, I think, Max Payne or really maybe any of the other games. It's not necessarily is the game ready to come out. I don't think this game comes out next year. It might come out in 27, maybe even 2028. But the thing with the Game Awards that I think I mentioned with Max Payne or one of these videos is not only are there tiers of announcements, but there are tiers of like how far out is a game. We've gotten Game Awards where we get in, and here's the thing. When it comes to like Wolf Among Us or Wonder Woman, yeah, we've gotten games that like God only knows when those games were planned to come out. When they go to Jeff and they pitch like, hey, let's show Wolf, he doesn't know when those things are coming out, right? So to be fair, there are games I feel like that go to the Game Awards and are big things. Mass Effect, oh my dear God. You show off Mass Effect, it's not going to come out till like 8 years after you showed that, maybe even longer. So when you go and you tell Jeff, hey, we want to show off Mass Effect, there is not a thought in the room of, oh, okay, this game must be within 4 years of releasing, right? It's never thought of. So, but there are tiers. Not every game is that. Sometimes games are shown that are coming out 2 or 3 years later. I think Alan Wake was maybe 2. Alan Wake 2 was shown. I think 2 years later it came out. I think when you show Alan Wake 2, you don't expect that game to be 6 years out. You know what I'm saying? There are some games that, yeah, I don't think you care. I think you say, oh, you have, it would be like Elder Scrolls in reverse, right? Like say it's Elder Scrolls 7. Say Elder Scrolls 6 like just came out, and 7 is like 10 years away. There's no harm. You just show it. There is harm. But, I mean, to them, they don't care. They would show Elder Scrolls 7, right? Just think of, like, I don't know, whatever you want to think of. Like, say, Naughty Dog's next game after Intergalactic. I mean, God only knows when that's coming out. Would they show a game like that? It's not impossible because that doesn't matter to a game like that. But then there are games that they do matter, that you don't want to show it when the game is 2, 3, 4 years out. So Iron Man finds itself, I think, in a weird spot because Iron Man's like, it's probably coming out in 2 to 3 years. That's probably a really good, layout of it. So is that an okay amount of time, to show the trailer? Number one, I think yes. I actually would. Like, I would tolerate that. If EA can tolerate it, I'll tolerate it. I would also say, has it been enough time since they actually started? Again, I think a common theme, a thing like Alan Wake versus a thing like Mass Effect, is that Mass Effect didn't start yet. They say they were kind of working on it, but let's be real, right? Or when Star Wars Eclipse is shown, or when Wonder Woman, they've got nothing. They started that game like the week before. Like I want to believe, I always want to believe that's not the case, but as we have found out, with every single freaking example, it's always that case. These developers, they start it, they make the trailer, and that's the first thing they make. They got next to nothing else. So that can happen. Is Iron Man in that situation, though? No. Now, that studio doesn't seem like it's the biggest studio in the world. And also, sadly, they had to help / I think just make Battlefield 6's campaign. Not a fan. That reminds me, honestly, of Activision taking all of the studios that were making Tony Hawk and Crash and Spyro. I remember back in the, around COVID time, they took all those studios to just work on COD. And it's like, they're making art. They're making Crash Bandicoot. Can you leave them alone? In this case, these people are making Iron Man. Leave them alone. They don't need to make a Battlefield campaign for you. What the F are you doing? Well, regardless, okay, it doesn't matter. That is something to bring up, though. Okay, all jokes aside, they've been working on it for probably 3 years, but how many have been working on it for 3 years? And then you have the Battlefield 6 campaign, which probably messes with it a little bit. So can you really say it's been 3 years? Has it been 1 or 2 or maybe all 3? I think that's still enough time to have something like tangible, right? Have something that can actually be shown and impress, and it's not... When you show Iron Man, it shouldn't come across that you just started yesterday, because it didn't. It didn't, so it should kind of reflect that, when you actually show it. So I think it's a game that's in a good spot. Like, it's not coming out next year, so it's not like Exodus, right? Exodus is going to... I always say it. I think I say it differently every time I say the game's name. That game's going to Game Awards. That game is coming out next year, and we know that. And the game seems pretty complete. So when you see that, you expect something that reflects that, right? Iron Man's kind of right in the middle. You don't expect it next year, but you're not expecting it in 5. And then the game didn't just start yesterday. It started years ago. So I think it's in a really nice spot to be a big surprise, an EA game, a Marvel game, a game from a studio that I really do think has it under control and knows what they're doing. I think it's a very talented group that, by the way, should have been allowed to make a Dead Space 2 remake, but we won't go down that road. They're talented. I think they're going to do a really good job with this Iron Man game. And so now you just show us a trailer, right? So I think it's possible. I really do. Do I think it'll be there? Well, this is the tough thing, is it not? You can only have so many games, right? These kind of Iron Man level announcements, you kind of have like between 2 to 4 of them, So if you're having Final Fantasy, do you have this? If you're having Max Payne or you don't have Max Payne, does that mean you have Iron Man? I would say it's definitely not 0. Like, if this was shown, I wouldn't be shocked, because now it's definitely in. Does that make sense? It's in my mind. I'm not going to give a prediction. I'll be the hypocrite here. I'll leave it like this, but I will say, if it is there, I feel like we're kind of, me and anybody who watches this video, I think we're kind of ready for it, are we not? I would not be shocked if it was there, but I also would get it, if it wasn't there. I think, like I just said in the beginning of the video, I think maybe that just pushes it to 2026. Maybe it puts pressure on next year, where it's like, all right, because now you're going into year 4, right? Like, if we hit next September and we're going into next Game Awards and we haven't seen this game, now it's sounding more and more like Wonder Woman. It's sounding more like Star Wars, KOTOR, all these other games that you do not want to be associated with, by the way, right? It would sound more like them. So I think the pressure is on Iron Man to show itself within the next 6 or so months. That's just my opinion. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.